Hello there once again, friends and enemies, and welcome back to Weird Deck Techs, where I take a look at underutilized archetypes in Yu-Gi-Oh! And see what might be going on with them. Today, we're going to be taking a look at an archetype that's based on Greco-Roman mythology, and that is going to be Dream Mirror. Dream Mirror mainly consists of light and dark monsters, which are counterparts of each other. If there is a light version of a monster, there's also a dark version of it. They usually have the same name, but a different title. It runs on two field spells, Dream Mirror of Terror and Dream Mirror of Joy, which give the monsters different effects based on which one is out on the field at the time. Seems like a very interesting concept for an archetype, so let's go ahead and take a look at the archetype and see how we feel about it. So here we have it, my take on the Dream Mirror deck. If you haven't been here before, here's how it works. I'm going to go over every single card in the deck, how it works. We're going to go over a tiny bit of gameplay, and then I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the archetype and the deck as a whole. So let's go ahead and get started with Morpheus, the Dream Mirror Black Knight. If this card is special summoned by the effect of a Dream Mirror monster, you can target one card on the field, destroy it. During the main or battle phase, if Dream Mirror of Joy is in the field zone, quick effect. You contribute this card and special summon one Morpheus the Dream Mirror White Knight from your deck. You can only use each effect of Morpheus the Black Knight once per turn. So there were two copies of that one. Next up we got two copies of Morpheus the White Knight. If this card is special summoned by the effect of a Dream Mirror monster, you can activate this effect. This card cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects this turn. During the main or battle phase, if a Dream Mirror of Terror is in the field zone, quick effect, you contribute this card, special summon one Morpheus Black Knight from your deck. You can only use each effect of Morpheus White Knight once per turn. Three copies of Phantasos, the Dream Mirror Foe. If this card is special summoned by the effect of Dream Mirror monster, this card can attack directly this turn. During the main or battle phase, if Dream Mirror of Joy is on the field zone, quick effect, you contribute this card, special summon one Phantasos Friend from your deck. You can only use each effect of Phantasos Foe once per turn. Two copies of Phantasos Friend. If this card is special summoned by the effect of a Dream Mirror monster, you can target one level 8 or lower Dream Mirror monster in your graveyard except Phantasos Friend, special summon it in defense position. During the main or battle phase, if Terror is in the field zone, quick effect, you contribute this card, special summon one Phantasos Foe from your deck. You can only use each effect of Phantasos Friend once per turn. With the Phantasos cards, it's really up in the air if you want Friend to be at 3 or if you want Foe to be at 3. I do believe one of them should be at 3 and one of them should be at 2. Next up, we got two copies of Neroy, the Disciple. If a Dream Mirror monster is on the field, you can special summon this card from your hand, then you can make this card become dark. If this card is special summoned by the effect of a Dream Mirror monster, activate this effect. If Joy is on the field, you can return one spell or trap your opponent controls to the hand. Also, after that, if Terror is on the field, draw one card, then shuffle one card from your hand into the deck. You can only use each effect of Neroy Disciple once per turn. You know me, I love spell trap removal. Returning it to the hand, however, is a little bit of a mixed bag, right? You only really want to return traps to the hand. We're really looking for the draw card effect on this card. However, I could see this card just going down to 1 and giving that extra slot to a different monster. Three copies of Neroy the Traitor. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add one Neroy Disciple from your deck to your hand. Then you can make this card become light. You contribute one other Dream Mirror monster, choose one Dream Mirror monster from your deck with a different level than the tributed monster, add one Joy or one Terror from your deck to your hand that is mentioned on that chosen monster, and special summon that chosen monster in defense position. You can only use each effect of Neroy the Traitor once per turn. Three copies of Ikelos, the Dream Mirror Mara. If this card is special summoned by the effect of a Dream Mirror monster, you can special summon one Dream Mirror monster from your hand, except Ikelos Mara. During the main or battle phase, if Joy is in the field zone, quick effect, you contribute this card, special summon one Ikelos Sprite from your deck. You can only use each effect of Ikelos Mara once per turn. Last for the monsters, we have three copies of Ikelos the Dream Mirror Sprite. If this card is special summoned by the effect of a Dream Mirror monster, you can add one Dream Mirror card from your deck to your hand, except Ikelos Sprite. During the main or battle phase, if Terror is in the field zone, quick effect, you contribute this card, special summon one Ikelos Mara from your deck. You can only use each effect of Ikelos Sprite once per turn. Moving on, we're getting into spell and traps of the main deck, starting with the spells, of course, with 2 copies of Dream Mirror Phantasms, a continuous spell. When this card is activated, you can add 1 Dream Mirror monster from your deck to your hand. If Joy is in a field zone, all monsters you control gain 500 attack and defense. If Terror is in a field zone, all monsters your opponent controls lose 500 attack and defense. You can only activate 1 Phantasm per turn. 3 copies of Dream Mirror of Joy, a field spell. During the end phase, you can banish this card, activate 1 Terror directly from your hand or deck. You can only use this effect of Joy once per turn. Dream Mirror monsters you control cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effects or their monsters' attacks, except your Dream Mirror monsters with the highest level. This effect is only applied while you control a light Dream Mirror monster. 2 copies of Dream Mirror of Terror, a field spell. During the end phase, you can banish this card, activate 1 Joy directly from your hand or deck. You can only use this effect of Terror once per turn. Each time your opponent special summons a monster, inflict 300 damage to your opponent. This effect is only applied while you control a Dark Dream Mirror monster. I understand that both of these field spells really run the deck, and they're kind of the main source of effects happening. Normally, I would say put both Terror and Joy at 3. However, it feels to me that, personally speaking, Joy gets a lot more mileage out of not only its own effect, but also the effects of other monsters. I understand that having 3 copies of Terror would probably be a little more beneficial, and I could take away another spell or trap and give another Terror that slot. This is just how I thought would be the best way to stack these field spells based on my first time looking at this archetype. Lastly, for the spells, we have Dream Mirror of Chaos, 3 copies. It's a quick play spell. Fusion summon 1 Dream Mirror fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters you control as fusion material. If Joy is in a field zone, you can also use monsters in your hand as fusion material. If Terror is in a field zone, you can also banish monsters from your graveyard as fusion material. You can only activate 1 Chaos per turn. Finishing out the main deck, we have traps, and we're starting off with 2 copies of Dream Mirror Recap, a continuous trap. If a Dream Mirror monster you control would be tributed to activate its own effect, shuffle it into the deck instead of sending it to the graveyard. During the main phase, you can send this face-up card to the graveyard, place 1 of your Joy or Terror that is banished or in your graveyard face up in your field zone. Then, you can special summon 1 monster from your hand that specifically lists that card you placed in its text. 3 copies of Dream Mirror Oniromancy, a counter trap. Activate 1 of these effects. First, when your opponent activates a spell trap card while a Joy is in the field zone, negate that activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Second, when your opponent would special summon monsters while Terror is in the field zone, negate the summon, and if you do, destroy that monster. You can only activate 1 Oniromancy per turn. 2 copies of Dream Mirror Fantasy. If you control a Dream Mirror monster, target 1 each of your banished Joy and Terror, shuffle them into the deck, and if you do, banish 1 card on the field. If a Dream Mirror card you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. You can only activate 1 Fantasy per turn. And last for the main deck, we've got 3 copies of Dream Mirror Hypnagogia. Choose 1 Joy and 1 Terror from your hand and or deck, and place 1 in your field zone and the other in your opponent's field zone face up. You can only activate 1 Hypnagogia per turn. Obviously, this card would be better if it was a spell, but the fact that it gets out both your Dream Mirror of Joy and your Dream Mirror of Terror is what makes me want to keep this card at 3. That is it for the main deck, so let's go ahead and move on to our extra deck monsters, starting with 2 copies of Oniros, the Dream Mirror Earl King. It requires 2 Dream Mirrors monsters with different attributes to be summoned. While face up on the field, this card is also Dark Attribute. You can only use each of the following effects of Oniros Earl King once per turn. 1. If another monster you control is tributed, except during the damage step, you can target 1 card on the field, destroy it. 2. If this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can special summon 1 Dream Mirror monster from your graveyard, except Oniros Earl King. Finishing off the deck as a whole, we have the card that I consider to be the boss monster of the deck, 3 copies of Oniros, the Dream Mirror Tormentor. It requires 2 Dream Mirror monsters with different attributes to be summoned. While face up on the field, this card is also Light Attribute. You can only use each of the following effects of Oniros Tormentor once per turn. 1. When a monster effect is activated while Dream Mirror of Terror is in a field zone, quick effect, you can negate that effect. 2. If Joy is in a field zone, quick effect, you can tribute this card, special summon 1 Oneiros Earl King from your extra deck in defense position. And this is where you might want to have that extra terror. Of course, as I said, I consider this the boss monster of the deck. The big hope is that I would get terror out and somehow keep it on the field, of course. But before we talk more about the archetype, let's go ahead and take a look at how it plays a little bit. So here we go, we have our starting hand, and this hand, I love this hand. So obviously we're starting off with Nayroy, the Dream Mirror Trader, which we can go ahead and normal summon automatically on our first turn. We can choose to activate this effect and get a Disciple into our hand. I'm going to go ahead and do that just because, you know, getting more cards out of the deck is always good. Now we have a new Disciple in hand, but we did also already have a Disciple in hand. We can go ahead and special summon that Disciple from our hand onto the field. Now what we're going to do with both of these cards is after we activated Nayroy the Traitor's effect, we can choose to make the card become light. We're going to keep the card dark, we're going to special summon Dream Mirror Nayroy the Disciple and keep him light. We're going to go ahead and activate our Dream Mirror of Chaos to get one of our boss monsters out on the field. Now, because we don't have either of our Dream Mirrors on the field, we're going to go for Earl King. Now, once Earl King is out on the field, we don't really have anything else that we can really do. We're going to have to pass our turn, but we have Earl King on the field, and Earl King can do quite a few things. Obviously, the first and most obvious one is that he is a giant 3000 attack beater. The second is that if he is destroyed, we can go ahead and special summon a Dream Mirror monster from our graveyard. Now, obviously with the Nayroys, we don't really get anything if they're special summoned, especially if we don't have a Dream Mirror on the field, but it still gives us something extra to have on the field. So let's assume that our opponent let us keep Earl King on the field. We're going to go ahead and start our next turn and see what card we draw. And we drew an Oneiromancy, so we can go ahead and place that down. Unfortunately, we won't be able to use either of its effects without the Dream Mirror card, of course, but we can still use other cards in our hand. We can, of course, summon either our Phantasos or our Ikelos, and then we can special summon our Nayroy just for fun. Overall, not a whole lot of movement going with this deck so far, but I kind of like how that first turn went. So, there we go. So that is Dream Mirror. So what do I think about this archetype? The archetype is a little bit weird. I kind of wish there was a little more to this archetype. I really enjoy the idea of having an archetype that revolves around duality, where you kind of swap back and forth between different versions of the same monster based on the type of cards you have on the field. Overall, because I haven't actually played a game with this deck, I can't speak on if it's good or not. It seems like it would get slowed down a whole lot. Of course, there's probably a more optimal way to play this deck. However, just looking at the cards for the first time, and I've looked over them a couple times, this was the most comfortable that it felt to build a deck around this archetype. Overall, I can't say that I hate it. I can't really say that I like it. I don't really have a strong opinion on it. It seems like it could be fun. Obviously, this deck seems like it's geared for a card like Stained Glass of Light and Dark, and all of your other fun staples and your other fun attribute-specific support cards. There we have Dream Mirror. Let me know down below what you think of Dream Mirror. Have you played it before? If you have, how was it? And if you haven't, how has this video made you think about this deck? I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so incredibly much for 700 subscribers. That is insane. Until next time, as always, drink your water.